What's it like coming of age in the post-apocalypse? In a world with no future and no community? These are the questions Ellie confronts in The Last of Us. Kinda like every teenager today, the world of The Last of Us is bleak, unforgiving. And yet, there's a kind of stark beauty to it that I'm struggling to find in the current entertainment landscape. So let's dive into why this show and its source material became a de facto religion for so many, as well as the few niggling flaws that I fear hold this show back from achieving perfection. It all comes down to Ellie. What really separates The Last of Us from other post-apocalyptic shows or movies? It's the dramatic stakes at play. Take Mad Max, The Walking Dead, or any dystopian YA teen drama. The best a post-apocalyptic show or movie can offer you is the idea that in a wasteland, meaning arises only from self-sacrifice, and the best possible outcome is survival. The Last of Us is pessimistic in this regard. The show clearly seems to be saying that a life of barbarism and mere survival is unequivocally not worth living. Every character that attempts to make some kind of solitary meaning in this world winds up miserably lonely, dead, or worse. The show is saying that human relationship is the point of human existence. That's what the third episode is about. Joel's decision at the end of the first game can be read in exactly this way. Even if sacrificing Ellie means saving the world, in Joel's eyes, that would be the end of the world. The end of everything human in him and in the society that would make such a choice.
You just come after her.
Meanwhile, Ellie is confronted with a different kind of problem. Ellie isn't just going to die in this world, she was born into it, and now she's coming of age in it. For her, the idea that the world already ended is an abstraction, an impossibility contradicted by her very existence. As Ellie's predicament illustrates, the truth about the world ending is not that the world, whatever the hell that means, actually ends. It's the symbolic order itself, the tenuous human creations and precious human relationships that end.
Planet isn't going anywhere. We are!
That's why Ellie gives a shit about Mortal Kombat. She initially has no idea what it really is. It's a myth to her.
You ever play this one? I had a friend who knew everything about this game.
But it's these kinds of myths, this symbolic order, that brings some meaning and a sense of continuity to our lives. Similarly, her obvious attachment to Joel is because he's a father figure, a symbol that represents everything Ellie lacks, and vice versa. While Joel's journey is about letting go, Ellie's journey becomes about rediscovery. It's in this way, Ellie's struggle for intimacy takes on even darker tones. The Last of Us consciously juxtaposes Ellie's desire for companionship and intimacy with death. Her first love, for example, ends up dead shortly after their first kiss. Everyone Ellie knows or trusts dies. They are trying to suggest that the terrifying reality of the post-apocalypse is not that we lose the capacity to love or trust, but rather that we don't. And it's that love and trust that ultimately leads us to such feelings of betrayal and hatred that we slowly discard our humanity to make the experience bearable. Which brings me to episode 8. It comes on the back of several episodes that are building up to Ellie's coming of age, her final initiation into adulthood. So far, Ellie's been remarkably happy-go-lucky and optimistic about her experience. Then her protector is downed. She's out of resources and she's got to take a risk with no one to bail her out. And in the face of this inconceivably brutal charge, Ellie lets her guard down. She comes upon other survivors who offer her help. Desperate, Ellie accepts, and that's when she gets taken prisoner by cannibals. It's a horrifying ordeal, and even for someone as jaded as me, this is hard to watch. Then of course it gets worse. Of course, the leader of the cannibals is also a child predator. The cannibal leader is a manifestation of the worst kind of rationalization and dehumanization. He is the adult world, the cold real of the post-apocalypse. the stand-in for the point every dystopian world is trying to make. Some people are completely and totally selfish, and their will to control and dominate all life is limitless. But the show isn't just pulling this out of its ass for a cheap thrill. The cannibal pedo is not the focus here. Neither is Ellie's life or death struggle. It's the audience's concern for Ellie's emotional and psychological well-being that drives the tension here. The look on her face at the end of the episode when she finally reconnects with Joel is harrowing. She's an adult now, and her innocence lies tattered in the butchered carcass of the dead cannibal she killed. Our reaction as viewers isn't just, whew, glad she got out of that one. It's, oh my god, how is Ellie ever supposed to get over this? Ellie doesn't really become an adult when her first love dies in a random accident. It's this moment where she's forced to confront human evil and discover the darkest parts of herself that she really comes of age. And that's what separates The Last of Us from most post-apocalyptic tales. In Mad Max, when they finally take down the mediocre guy, it's not like they have a thriving human society now. They probably just go back to shredding electric guitars, driving through the desert in monster trucks. It's only a happy ending because they lived, and the bad guy didn't. Life and death really aren't the stakes in The Last of Us though. Ellie can't get infected. Her vulnerability doesn't come from the fact that she's physically weak. It comes from the fact that she's a damn kid with no future. And this is the conundrum we all face today. It's not just our lives on the line, but our very humanity. Environmental crisis, increasing inequality, skyrocketing depression rates, Twitter. Need I say more?
No, God!
It's all very well to celebrate the indomitable human spirit, but that is not how I feel most of the time. I am terrified to build anything because it feels like it'll never be enough and that the world will collapse around me before I'm even done. So even if you make it, what's the point? Sometimes I'm shocked there isn't more nihilism in the air. So when I see a work of art like The Last of Us appear out of the cesspool of the digital content era, it reminds me that there are still people out there putting their heart and soul on the line to make something worthy of human emotion. And it makes me feel like we humans aren't done yet. Now, with the dick sucking covered, it's gripe time. My main issue with the show is the combination of inconsistent writing, overly snarky and sarcastic humor, and the unfortunate decision to make Ellie way too overconfident.
Wow. Well, I mean, you got some balls on you, sister.
Everything I've said so far about her arc are cheapened by Ellie's lack of fear. A fearless character is fine and well, but the trouble is it would have been more satisfying in my opinion if Ellie had been played a little closer to her character in the game. She was never quite overconfident or downright flippant about death in the games. She was just jaded and kinda terrified. Which brings me to Bella Ramsey. I really like her. She pulled off a character in Game of Thrones that I was 100% sure would be impossible to execute. No child actor could pull this off, I thought. But Bella Ramsey nailed it. And she pretty much nailed Ellie too. But, in my opinion, she played some of it a little too arrogant and fearless.
Scared all the time.
Bitch, are you for real?
Even when she is in dire straits, Ellie's bravado never breaks. And that's what I wish it was, bravado. Because the show often paints Ellie's actions and behavior in a sympathetic light, as if she's right and everyone else is just a pussy. But that has the unfortunate effect of diluting the impact of the moment in episode 8 when Ellie faces down the cannibal. Because we already see her as a fully matured, fearless adult.
What can I say, man? I'm a natural.
There's really nowhere for her character to go. Some of this is the writing, but a lot of it comes down to Bella Ramsey's performance. She kills it in a lot of the scenes, but once in a while she comes off like a person that hasn't lived in a hellscape her entire life. Even in episode 8, when captured, alone, about to potentially be eaten, Ellie chooses to break this guy's fingers from inside her cage. These kinds of suicidal moves are for someone that's already over the edge. Similarly, in her escape, moments later, she's already killed this one dude with the cleaver, which lessens the impact of when she finally goes full medieval on cannibal schoolteacher. I feel like Ellie needed to be making a consistent effort to be smart and avoid straight up violence until she was literally staring evil in the face. Even the aftermath of the event is poorly handled in this regard. Episode 9 comes out of the gate strong. Ellie is clearly shaken by her capture and assault. Joel seems aware of this, and for the first time we see him stepping into the paternal role without reserve. He is trying to address Ellie's emotional state without being intrusive, but she is shut down. This was perfect. Then not 2 minutes later, Ellie is once again back to her innocent and simultaneously mature self, feeding giraffes, unbroken in her resolve to complete their mission. Pedro Pascal crushes it with this beautiful monologue about Joel's suicide attempt after the death of his daughter, and he tells Ellie that it was only after he met her that his trauma really began to heal. The message he's giving her is not to lose hope, and to recognize that there are still people who love her. It had me tearing up. But since Ellie remains fairly stoic and is joking around a minute later, I am left wondering if she's a sociopath. So I propose a new rule. It must take a child at least one episode to assimilate a full-blown existential crisis before they're all chipper again. Sound good? The finale itself was amazing, by the way. Joel makes his final decision to protect Ellie even at the cost of his own humanity. To cap it all off, Joel lies to Ellie about what he's done. And Ellie finally loses the last vestiges of her innocence.
Okay.
I just can't help but think how powerful the moment could have been if Ellie had been more innocent to begin with, thus making her arc all the more heartbreaking. Despite all that though, I love this show. It's hyper emotional, it's well acted, it's gorgeous, and most surprisingly, it's funny. This delivery from Joel is one of the funniest things I have ever seen in a post-apocalyptic drama.
Everything is great.
Dude.
And it comes at the end of such a gut punch of an episode that it literally had me crying. But think about the circumstances under which the show was made. The Last of Us 2 was hugely divisive. The director got called Neil Cuckman so many times he was forced to legally change his name. Plus, this is a video game adaptation. I doubt anyone needs reminding of the track record there. I mean, Arcane exists, but this is the first live-action adaptation of a video game worth a damn, that's for sure. And if anyone's about to pipe in with the defense of Mortal Kombat 1995, please don't pop an aneurysm. I love that movie too. But can we at least agree it's kind of a cartoon, even if they had live-action actors? So we've got soy boy Neil Cuckman making a video game adaptation, having never directed any films after facing backlash for his last project, now working with a child actor making a show with heavy feminist themes. Good fucking luck, Neil. But to pretty much everyone's surprise on planet Earth, I reckon, this show was phenomenal. Enough has been said on episode 3 and Nick Offerman's excellent performance. But I must point out that what happened here was that The Last of Us took one of the most maligned archetypes in modern culture, the conspiracy theorist alt-right doomsday prepper, changed huge parts of its own source material, something that is increasingly viewed as a war crime, focused on his sexuality, and still produced a masterpiece that was almost universally beloved. Goes to show you, it's not the game, it's the player. Neil Druckmann and The Last of Us embarrassed Hollywood. While Marvel, DC, Star Wars are succumbing to nostalgic circle jerks, a goddamn video game adaptation is out here reminding us why we even watch TV to begin with. To connect with characters, relate to their struggles and weaknesses, and feel our shrunken souls swell as they overcome obstacles. Anyway, thanks so much for watching. Let me know in the comments if you want to see more character analysis like this. Alright, see you in the next one.